everybody, and welcome to the Makers of Minnesota podcast. I'm Stephanie Hansen, and we are talking to a cool person who's doing a cool thing, who seems to always be on the cutting edge. We're talking to Matt Kennevan. He is the owner of the Dabblers that are around town, the beer Dabblers, and he's also the owner of the Dabbler Depot, which is on West 7th Street in St. Paul, which is a coffee shop and a liquor store that specializes and has a huge giant beer cooler. But you are also, Matt, going to be introducing many of the folks in the Twin Cities, assuming the legalities work out, to THC. Tell us about how you're expanding into these THC stores, and what are they called and where are they?
What a time to be alive,
right? I
right?
know. And like, you're always like, well, you and I have known each other for a super long time. You're like one of the hardest working, most generous men I know that's extremely unassuming, right? I tried to hire you like at least 15 times, I think, because I just thought you were such a great salesperson. And you've turned this whole Dabbler concept into retail. You've helped break a lot of beers by having the Dabbler events where you're introducing people to products. And now you're on the front end of THC.
Yeah, it's been a wild 14 years of being a business owner, to say the least. I have a lot of businesses currently, but I've had some that are no longer. And, you know, it's, who would ever thought that like this would have been my career path, but here we are. And I'm excited about it. The legalization, I'm not so sure I'm excited about that, because we don't know how it's going to roll out. And it's right now, it's like a big giant roulette wheel, and wherever it stops. And that could be incredibly great for people, or it could like literally end the business, instantly. Yep. And put a handful of people out of work, so that's what's a little scary about the next few weeks. We'll learn our fate and see how it shakes up. But me, and I'll just break it down a little bit for your viewers here. I try to do things that other people aren't doing, or do it differently than them. And when the pandemic hit, I started a liquor store. And you're like, well, what's different about that liquor store? Well, it's the only liquor store in Minnesota that probably has a tap wall on there for tasting. So you come in and it's a, hands-on experience. If you're going to try something, there's a really good chance that I've got it, a bottle open or whatnot, but we're going to give you some great recommendations. But some of the unique things about the store itself is, like, we've got a content studio in there. So we do brewers, we do podcasts. One of the podcasts is Black Brewers Podcast that comes in every Tuesday, and they record there. But we also have like full video production, editing, all the equipment to create, a different way of learning and understanding some of these products that we're featuring. Full photography studio. And it's such a cool place that I'm pretty proud that it doesn't look like every other liquor store in the planet. When I started that, other folks are like, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that. And I just, plug my ears. I'm like, I'm going to do it different. So I'm going to do it like I want, everything from, buying shelves. The folks are like, oh, this is what you got to do to, have the proper display. And we're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. We don't have like starbursts all over the place. It says sale $9.99. Like, no, that's not what we're doing. And so one of the cool other features of the store is a 40-foot plant wall. And I know like plant walls aren't that groundbreaking anymore, but we have the condensation from the cooler gets drained into the basement into a 55-gallon drum, and then I pump it back up to the plant wall, and the plant wall gets fed by my cooler, and installed solar on the roof. So my solar is running the cooler is running the plants, and so on and so forth. And it's just like, that's the kind of thinking that we like to bring to the table that shows us different. All over the country, there's people that are like hungry for water, and they don't have water, right? And one thing that non-industry people don't know is there's so much water waste, like in the coffee shop. Think of how many coffee shops are in California or, the West Coast, where so many people are starved with water, that you have to have this thing called a dripper well on, and it literally runs nonstop, and you're just wasting that water down the drain. And, like, we're hungry for water, we need water, but we're making these poor choices. So it's time to rethink how we're doing things. And even though we don't have a water shortage here in the Midwest, we could someday.
Yeah. And to think, like if you have the ability to do the right thing and it, then you do it, right? Because you do it because it's the right thing to do. Just like a million other choices that you make as a business owner. One thing that I think is really cool about you is you take this industry of beer, and there's a million different types of beer and styles and flavor profiles, and then you make a content studio and you put the beer in this content studio because you allow other people that are experiencing beer and trying to educate about it and trying to create unique and different products a way to access that through this content studio and also become a resource for them. You did that too with the Dabblers, where you brought all these people together and you didn't just have a beer festival. You really like had the capacity to have a large profile event where people could take time and people could spend time. And yeah, sure, you can go to any beer festival and get drunk and go home if that's your thing. But also like allowing all of these people to come together, also like they learn about each other and they meet each other and they cross-pollinate and create different products and push the whole industry forward. You had the Growler, so you had the magazine that was talking about all the beer products, but you've really done some groundbreaking things. You must feel pretty cool about your career.
Thank you. I do. I feel great about the accomplishments. I also, like, every day I wake up and like I'll see somebody else that is just a bonehead and they'll like have some wild success and they'll be,
Yep.
rich off of something stupid. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why am I working so hard? And like everything I do is just to, like, I feel like it's just to catch up, and
Yep.
and like I wish I was getting rich off it, but the reality is, like, it's not easy. And I'm okay with that. Like, I don't know when I'm working, when I'm not working. And I think that's what makes it, the most amazing part of my career is like,
Yeah.
I, like, I wake up and I'm doing what I want to do, and that's cool. And if you don't have that, like, I urge everybody to try to find that, because it's there, but it's not easy. So that's what I would say about that.
So this podcast is going to come out in June. So let's just assume that the legalization of marijuana is going to happen, that Governor Walz is going to sign this bill, and you're going to be in a position where you're going to be one of the first people to have one of these stores, right? Where you're going to be able to bring these THC products together. What is that going to look like for the consumer? Because I already know you're going to do it differently. Right now, you go to find a seltzer or to find a bag of gummies. You're basically kind of sneaking in someone's creepy, not very well lit back door. And it just doesn't feel like a great experience. It still feels very clandestine.
Yeah. First and foremost, what I would say is, like, sorry if anybody owns a smoke shop out there, but that's sketchy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not taking a dig. I'm not trying to take a dig on them, but like, a lot of these shops out there are selling products that are not tested, or
Yep.
they're not tried. There's not a lot of thought in them, why they're carrying them, like, that's the opposite of what we're doing. my stores, they're already open, right? I've got one in South Minneapolis. I've got one on West 7th Street in St. Paul, and then I've got one in Uptown. And
And what are you calling them?
Dabbler Depot THC.
Okay.
We're focusing a lot on the seltzer parts. It's, it's the same thing. Like the most breweries are making these products, and we're bringing them in, and like hands down, our selection is like easily the biggest in Minnesota, if not the Midwest of any type of place like this. So when this gets legalized, I'm still not gonna, I shouldn't say never, but I'm most likely not going to be a full-blown dispensary.
Yep.
My customers are not the customers who are going to go roll a joint and smoke it, wherever they're going to smoke it. Like my customers are, like, pardon my expression, but, middle-aged soccer mom.
Yep.
Or dads. And, then it goes up to people who like truly have medical issues that are needing something that they can't get out of regular medicine. And right now we're focusing on a media event that is going to take place in the next couple of weeks. And in there, we're going to make a video of, 10 or so people of why they're taking it. This past weekend, my mom, the weekend before, was in for Mother's Day, and she has a friend who she's traveling to Banff this summer with, and she's got Parkinson's, and unfortunately her it's catching up to her, and she's starting with the tremors and some of the other things that her body is not necessarily it's just she's in pain a lot, and like it's not great. And I'm like, hey mom, come into the store, try some of these products out, bring them back for your friend and see how it works. So it's not a dirty little hidden secret that we're doing. What it is we're in theory helping people. I can't say that's going to help my mom's friend, but it might. And the stories that I hear when folks come in to buy our products, it is like, it's very rewarding as a business owner to hear that you're really helping people out. Our employees is like beyond knowledgeable on these products. They're great humans, and they actually care. Like, why are you taking these products? Oh, you can't sleep. You have anxiety. Okay, maybe we're going to have less THC and more CBD in the product. So there's so many different reasons why people take this, and the least popular decision is like, just so I can get high. Like, yes, there are people that are taking it just to get high, but I would say that's not the majority of who my customer is. And like, I think about, like, am I a bad person for doing this? And I questioned that for a minute until we like started to find these stories and why people are taking it. And it's really cool. I mean, people need this, and especially after the pandemic, where like, it's not just affected the pandemic, meaning affected businesses, it's affected humans, and it's affected humans in so many different ways, where like right now drinking is down. And more, like, I look at my NA section and I watch people come in, and they're like it blows my mind how much NA product that we sell, and how many people are coming in for the THC, where like, these are, my kid goes to private school, and these are classmates' moms and dads that are coming in, and they're like, it's amazing how like they're curious, never have done it, don't know anything about it, because like in their brains, smoking joints are a dirty thing, or smoking a bowl is a dirty thing, and those people are never going to do that. So like, a gummy when they're home, cool, like they love that. Or these seltzers, it's fun to just try all the different kinds products that are out there. It's not a boring, drink that you're having.
So I have some like kind of just usage questions because I'm, of the age that Nancy Reagan said, just say no. And I did. And
Yeah,
so
we have a saying for that. It's called just say yo.
okay, so let's just say yo. And you are one of the few people in my life, my daughter's probably the other, that I would like if you said, hey, try this. This is how it's going to work. This is how it might affect you. Like sometime I'm going to do this, but I haven't yet because I'm nervous and I'm anxious and I'm not a big pot smoker. And you're right. Have I smoked a joint? I've probably had a puff off a joint like 5 times in my life. And it was like, meh, this isn't so great. But I am curious about THC. And I do think that as a society during the pandemic, we all drank a lot. A lot of people drank a lot. And it feels like trying to come off of that and try to have a more healthier lifestyle, that this is moving into that space for a lot of people, like where you still want to take the edge off, or maybe you're having anxiety or trouble sleeping. My husband has a weird food allergy, and sometimes gummies are the only thing that will get him to sleep. And sleep is so important. So, he'll risk trying different ones just because he's trying to get to sleep because he hasn't slept for 3 days. I imagine you have a lot of people that are in this category. And how do you get them to try it for the first time?
Yeah. For starts, I am a person that will take either a gummy or a seltzer once a day, and it's normally right before bed. Sometimes it's a little sooner before bed if I'm at home. I'm going to be out in public and going to be high kind of person. I mean, mainly because like I got to be on my game all the time when I'm out there, and I take it because I have a pinched nerve in my neck, and there's been no relief for me in the 8 years I've been chasing how to fix this problem. And I've tried things from dry needling to, you name it. Like, I've done it. And the only thing that worked for me is taking 4 Advil 2 times a day, sometimes 3 times a day, which I know is too many, but like I needed this. And so what have I done is switch to considerably less Advil, and I'm taking these gummies or seltzer before I go to bed, and it's ultimately helping me just like quietly sleep without tossing and turning and being like, I can't, sleep on this shoulder for too long or this shoulder for too long because I'm wearing out. It hurts, my body hurts, and so it's ultimately helping me just have a quiet, restless, a non-restless night of sleep, and that makes my day considerably better. So like that's what I'm taking it. As far as like, you're probably similar. Well, why I don't do it during the day is because I also have anxiety when I'm high. I've smoked many a times in my life, but once I smoke, like we'll be at a music festival or something, and I'll say, all right, guys, they'll peer pressure me into smoking. But the second I smoke, I've let them know I'm like, I'm going to disappear and I'm going to go into my tent and I'm going to like forget about it because my brain is wondering so many different things that that's not necessary for me.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's I don't need a massively high dose. And there are some people that need massively high doses,
right?
But I'm not one of them. And I can be like good to go off of 5 milligrams all day long. In gummies, sometimes I even do like 2.5. It's not really about it's not about the high for me. So everybody's a little bit different. When you talk with my folks, they're going to be like, all right, what's the thing? And then, there's like CBD, CBG, CBN, CBO. These are all different things that bring different experiences to you. And, like when you tell my people, this is what I'm shooting for, they're going to like fit you like a shoe. They're going to like try to say like, all right, let's start you with this or this dose or this, like this kind of a line. And so there's a lot more to it. And one of the things, it could be intimidating for folks to like, what's CBG, what's CBN, what's CB, blah, 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 blah. And in my opinion, this product should be sold by people who give a hoot about the product. It's probably unpopular with my brewery friends, but I don't think breweries should be selling these for on-site consumption, because there's so many new players to the game. Where there's one story that I've heard, and it was from a buddy of mine who is with one of the parks departments, and he and his wife went to a brewery, and she's like, oh, I want to try this, all the buzz about this. So she gets a can, and it was to go, and they went to their son's basketball game, and the dad coached, and she was sitting in the stands. And after the first game, he came up and was like, well, what do you think? Because she drank it in the stands. And she's like, oh, nothing happened. Like, I don't know, weird, nothing happened. Well, he goes down, next game hits, comes back up, and he's like, how you doing? You don't really look the same. And she's like, I can't walk. And she was just like, she could not walk because she was in the bleachers and scared of falling. And the reality was she took too high of a dose. And that's what happens if somebody who is selling this isn't like having a consultation. And to me, like, what we're doing is we are going to consult you, and we are going to get you into the right product. And if one product doesn't, it isn't perfect for you, like, give some feedback on that. We could try another product. And until you find out like your needs, it's, like, it's not one for all.
The education piece of this is so massive. And I don't know that people really have thought about it in the way that, just like the education piece with alcohol is very different, like, I don't know. I actually pay attention to, when I'm drinking a beer, how much alcohol percentage is in it, because I know that I can have 2 5.5% or less beers and drive home and be okay. But if I like tip that scale, then, or I have like some special beer that's 10%, like, no good. I need to know what I'm doing and be in control. And these products are very similar. And also, like, they're not regulated at this point, and they're hopefully with regulation. That is the one thing I think will be good, is if it says 5% on a package, it's going to be 5%, versus right now it's kind of all over the board.
Well, I mean, I think all products need to actually get an analysis, and that analysis is probably pretty good from the start. But like, what's happening is, there's some rumors of like the can lining of having some absorption with the product, and then the label says it's 5 milligrams, but it's been sitting there for 2 months, and now it's 3 milligrams or 2 milligrams. And I think there's a ways to go to figure some of this stuff out, to catch up to some of the other markets who have this for a long time. Like, my kid's 11, and I literally am scared for him every day for the future. Like, the drugs that are out there are, like, a buddy of mine, works at a Hazeltine, and he's like, there's no more alcoholics anymore. People aren't coming in for alcohol addiction. They're coming in because they're like hooked on harder, massive, bad drugs for you. And these drugs are being disguised in anything from like pot that you're buying off the street, and they're laced with other things. And there's it's not what it used to be. You know, when you and I were growing up in life, it's like, yeah, there's two kinds of weed. There was ditch weed, which
Yeah.
is the bad stuff, and then there's the kind bud. And it was not what kind of kind bud. It was like, it's just kind bud, and then it's just ditch weed. And those were the days where you could smoke a whole bowl, and you're like, I'm not high yet. Let's do it again. And then you
Yep.
smoke another bowl. Well, nowadays you take a hit of weed, one hit of weed, and you might be so stoned out of your mind, you don't know what day it is. And
Yep.
so, and then on top of that, some of these drugs are just laced with other drugs, and you don't know.
It is
And
troubling. It
it's
is
horrible.
nerve-wracking. It's troubling. Someone in my sphere is a younger person and occasionally goes out, and cocaine is apparently making a resurgence. And
Mhm.
this person is so afraid that someone's going to buy cocaine from the wrong person and it's going to have fentanyl in it. And, the casual use that we used to see in the 80s, as it were, as a party drug, is now going to become a casualty drug.
Yeah. And
It's nerve-wracking.
I heard literally last week that same thing, cocaine, and they're so scared they carry test strips
Yeah.
with them when they're buying it. Then they test it for fentanyl, because fentanyl is the drug specifically that I'm seeing is just everywhere in different forms. And I was at a food hall last week, and it was it's that new one on Nicolette
Yep.
Cross. I forget the name, but
Eat
it's
Street Crossing.
yeah, it's such a wonderful place. I mean, it is an absolute wonderful place, and wildly busy, and it's successful. But then you walk outside of those doors and you like see Kmart, and you're like, what on earth is going on? And it is like it's like zombie land. And unfortunately, it is a different world that we're
Yeah.
living in, and all these people are so like jacked up on the fentanyl, and like that's what you can take a normal person and then all of a sudden like turn them into a zombie in like no time.
It's interesting too. I think we're starting to get a different viewpoint about addiction. There tends to be a lot of shame and stigma about it. And particularly when you were dealing with alcoholics, there was this notion of tough love, and that tough love was the way that you would parent through that to get your kid to hit rock bottom and go to treatment. Now, with the different types of drugs, and not just alcohol, but people that you're physiologically, literally addicted in your brain, and tough love isn't really going to make a difference because you can't even make those choices. We're seeing a different type of treatment. We're seeing less stigma about it. We're seeing parents that have Narcan in their homes, people that are more interested in keeping their loved ones alive, to hopefully keep them alive long enough so that they get to the point where they can stop, or they want to stop, or they will stop, because it's just such a tragedy that some of these people, and we'll use Prince as an example, a man who started out with pain from hip, replacements or whatever, and all of a sudden over the course of time has graduated to smoking these patches. And people are dying, and they're not dying because they want to. They're dying because they're addicts and they need help. And I wonder if some of these in between type of scenarios, like a THC, or that if maybe that will give people some relief to some of this pain that's not so driven in psychotropic drugs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I in the Just Say No era, it was like marijuana is the gateway drug to,
Yes.
well, again, that's a long time ago. And
Yeah.
I don't believe, that. I believe this is some relief for people who don't know where else to turn.
Yeah.
And I would rather have, a family member taking THC seltzers than, than jumping on pain medication
Yeah.
that, like think of you or me. I take four pills a day for my nerve.
Yep.
I don't even know what they do anymore. I don't know why I take them. I don't know if I stopped taking them, it would make a difference. Like, it's just, these are things that are pushed on you. And,
And you're
and
afraid. Nobody
yeah.
wants to be in pain,
No.
like it's chronic pain is a real thing and it's a horrible thing. And you get to where whatever it is that helps ease that, you just don't want to mess with it, right? Because why go back to pain? It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So, and I think what, like, the overall message is for folks to, what my stores are, how they're different than other stores is, like, I've got beautiful stores. I have a lot of plants. I have a pond in one of my stores. It's curating a comfortable atmosphere for folks to come in and feel safe, and and it's you shouldn't feel icky.
Well,
Like,
and Matt, the
I
number one thing you have is just educated people.
yeah,
That just makes such a huge difference.
it's awesome how many kids bring their moms or dads in. Like, it's almost every shift that I see
Yeah.
somebody bringing in somebody else to educate them. When you go in with your son or daughter and they've been doing this for a while, like, you feel a lot better because you trust your son or daughter
Right.
on some of those things. Or like, I do see some moms and dads are like, they're not honest with their adolescent children what they're in there for.
Yeah.
They're kind of like disguising it. But then there's so many other people who are just like, this is what this is, and they're honest with their kid. And we're in that gray space right now of switching from this is like, let's not talk about stuff. Let's, like,
Yeah.
it's cool that you do it, but let's just keep it on the down low, to a time where it's like a little more normal and okay, and not to, like, you don't have to hide it.
Well, and this has been a great conversation. I encourage people to come into the store at Dabbler Depot THC and get their own experience, try their own level of comfortability, and just look around. We're probably here to stay in some form. And I think that legalization will be here in some form. So let's do it in a way that honors people and that's respectful. And hopefully the people that need the relief will get it. Because, it might not ever be my thing, but that's fine. Like, I don't have to, you do you, I'll do me, and the world will be a better place.
100%. Well said.
I love it, Matt. Thanks for chatting with us today on the Makers in Minnesota. You've been such a pioneer in so many things. It's been great to talk to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye.